forth, I say, there's other business for thee. Come, thou tortoise, when?
As wicked Jew, that ere my mother brushed with raven's feather from unwholesome fen, drop on ye both a southwest blow on ye, and blister ye all are.
For this be sure, tonight thou shalt have cramps, side stitches shall pen thy breath up.
I must eat my dinner. This island is mine. By Sycorax, my mother, which thou takest from me. When thou camest first, thou strokest me, and made much of me, would give me water with berries in it, and teach me how to name the bigger lights, and how the less that burn by day or night. And then I loved thee, and showed thee all the qualities of the isle, the fresh springs, brine pits, barren place, and fertile. Cursed be that I did so. All the charms of Sycorax, toads, beetles, bats, light on you. For I am all the subjects that you have. The first was mine own king, and here you stymie in this hard rock, whilst you do keep from me the rest of the island.
Thou most lying slave, I have used thee, filth as thou art, with human care.
I'd been interested for a long time in dreams, how strange dreams are, and how when we go to sleep our subconscious takes bits of our experience and scrambles them up in some sort of crazy narrative that is a reflection of life and illustrates some of our kind of concerns. So I began to think about the notion that this might be a dream, the whole play might be the dream, and might be the dream of someone who's had life support switched off, and the whole thing happens in that person's mind, in between life support being switched off and the actual cessation of thought.
Like a jackdaw, our subconscious pinches bits of real life to create a dream narrative. When Dorothy is swept by a hurricane into the land of Oz, the characters she meets all bear a striking resemblance to the people she knows on her farm. So in our version of The Tempest, the medical staff we see in the opening sequence become the characters in the play. The female nurse who cares for the patient becomes his beloved daughter, Miranda. The male nurse who helps her becomes Miranda's lover, Ferdinand. The doctors who make the decision to turn off life support become Antonio and Alonso, the conspirators who cheated Prospero out of his kingdom. A porter becomes his servant, Caliban. An exhausted doctor becomes the good-hearted counsellor, Gonzalo.
I have no idea how we've done this. Yeah, there was one of these moments where I was like, how on earth have we managed to get like an actual heart monitor in here? Yeah. It's just I thought it was a really interesting take on The Tempest. I've seen The Tempest many, many times, and it's kind of overdone at this point, but I've never seen it done from this angle, which is quite strange because obviously David's idea of this is very much confronting the concept of death, which is very prevalent, I think, in The Tempest because it was Shakespeare's last play, and it is an undertone in the entire show. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what drew me to it. And also being able to try and make The Tempest and an ICU ward fit together, which I hope we've done. I think we have.
We wanted the physical things in the play, the costumes, sets and props, to transform the real world into the dream world. The scrubs that the medical staff wear become, with small additions, the costumes worn by all the characters. The shapes who bring in the banquet wear medical masks. The bed that the patient lies on becomes a boat, then a banquet table, then a chariot. The screens round the hospital bed and the sheets become sails on a ship, or an illusionist prop to conceal the arrival of a banquet. When Antonio and Sebastian plot to kill Alonso, it's with medical scissors they will stab him. Stefano tops up his wine bottle from a drip stand. The same drip stand becomes the harpy's terrifying plumage, and banquet platters transform into accusing mirrors.
The Tempest itself is a very time-sensitive play. Prospero has 3 hours to accomplish everything he needs to do before the end of the play. And David's idea of this being the moment between turning off the life support and the end of the man's life, or his letting go and his surrender, I think that's really, really important and interesting, and his realisation through the play of this idea of surrender and the rare action being in forgiveness rather than revenge. There's a Buddhist saying that says, in the end, only 3 things matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of the things not meant for you.
Prospero's dream takes place in just the few seconds that elapse between life support being switched off and death. But time is elastic, and in the dream world, those few seconds can be an eternity. Or at least the time that Prospero needs to inflict a reckoning on his enemies. But there is another reckoning that awaits him. He must in the end return to that hospital bed and give up his life. We wanted to keep the sense throughout the play of a parallel reality bleeding into the world of his dream, like a voice in his ear. So there are strange intrusions into his dream world when characters from the hospital appear, going about their business, seemingly oblivious to him and his story.
Go hence, with diligence.
We went from very realised hospital sound to make it kind of familiar for everyone, which is quite dark, and then that really contrasted with the light dream and the massive storm sequence, and we found these like different layers of like oral landscapes that really worked well together because they were so contrasting that it just really told a different story and really brought us into a dream or back out of the dream.
In his hospital bed, the patient cannot move. He cannot see, he cannot speak, but he can hear the sounds around him. Bleeping machines, a digital clock ticking, phones ringing, and far away on a radio a crooner singing an old ballad. We realised very early on that the sound was going to play a very important part in telling our story. We didn't want an elaborate set, just a neutral space, so we would use sound to paint pictures and heighten our identification with Prospero. Those sounds that we establish in the hospital would keep returning, bleeding into his dream world to remind him that another reality waits.
Bountiful fortune now, my dear friend, hath mine enemies brought to this shore. Cease more questions. Thou art inclined to sleep. 'Tis a good dullness, and give it way. I know thou canst not choose.
The crooner's song would keep returning to haunt him, reminding him of lost youth and lost love. The digital clock constantly reminds him of time, that his time is running out, ebbing away. The bleeping machines beckon. Against this, we wanted a sound that belonged to the island, but also gave the feeling of another dimension of time, the constant and relentless indifference of waves rolling into the shore.
I must obey. His art is of such power.
So slave hence.
Yeah, the themes that are resonating with me the most are with everything that we've been through in the last year with 2020 and the pandemic and this whole new situation that we found ourselves in, exploring something that's 400 years old in terms of the Tempest, in terms of William Shakespeare's writing, and updating it and bringing it so presently to modern day with everything that's been happening has been a really exciting journey over the last couple of weeks.
The patient in his hospital bed is powerless, but in his dream Prospero is a prince of power. His magic is so powerful he can raise a storm that will sink a ship, disarm an assailant with a click of his fingers, make himself invisible, and conjure strange and terrifying visions. He rules through fear. Neither of his servants, Ariel and Caliban, dare defy him.
Thou didst prevent me. I had peopled else this isle with Caliban.
Abhorrent slave, I pitied thee, took pains to make thee speak, taught thee each hour one thing or another, and thou didst not.
Prospero wants revenge on the conspirators who robbed him of his kingdom. He wants to expose them for the traitors they are. He wants to make them suffer. He wants his kingdom back. But it doesn't go according to plan. So what stands in his way?
The play's about revenge. It's about someone who feels that they've been betrayed in the past, that they've been wronged. Because this character, Prospero, has magic powers, he's able to bring his enemies to the island where he has been exiled, banished to. And I think that all of us carry around grudges, don't we? We all have scores that we'd like to settle in life.
Both of his servants, Ariel, the spirit through whom he performs his magic, and Caliban, the malformed creature who performs his menial tasks, want their freedom. Both of them represent two sides of humanity. The spirit that is light and of the air, magical and playful, and the flesh that is of the earth, dark and sensual. At the end of the play, Prospero finally releases his spirit, his power to create magic. He gives up the ghost. Throughout the play, he is angry and repelled by the appetite and lust of Caliban. But is he reacting against a part of himself, the need of his own earthly body? We mark this by Prospero feeling something in his own body, his arm, that reminds him of his physical self and the need to confront Caliban. Just as Prospero is at war with the man who wronged him, is he also at war with himself? Is it his whole identity that is being pulled apart during the play? Prospero finally accepts his own physicality when he acknowledges Caliban, this thing of darkness, as his own. With his spirit departed, only his body remains to die. There's a curious thing about dreams. They seem to be something that's happening to us, events we can't control. Yet logically, we are the authors of our dreams. It's our own subconscious that is inventing whatever horrors or pleasures we experience. And often things happen in dreams which thwart the very thing we're trying to achieve. So in Prospero's dream, it was always part of the plan for the royal party to survive the shipwreck and land on shore to be punished for their sins. But it wasn't part of the plan for a drunken butler and court jester to survive and fall into a conspiracy with Caliban to murder Prospero and take the island. In a dream world, you can't control events, and however ridiculous their plot might be, Prospero has to divert his attention to seeing them off.
So Shakespeare for me at school was really like alienating. It felt kind of like something really highbrow and academic, and didn't understand it at all. And wasn't really interested in it until I went to train as an actor, and then got a bit more interested. I was like, oh, this is actually interesting, because it actually makes, once you translate it in your head, translate's the wrong word, but like get underneath it, they're just talking about what we talk about in everyday life. He wrote it to be really intimate and really like a story time almost thing.
Admired Miranda. Indeed, the top of admiration, worth what's dearest to the world. For several virtues have I liked several women, but never any with so full soul, but some defect in her did quarrel with the noblest grace she owed, and put it to the foil. But you, oh you, so perfect and so peerless, are created of every creature's best.
I do not know one of my sex. No woman's face remember, save from my glass, my own. Nor have I seen more that I may call men.
At the heart of The Tempest, there's a love story. The meeting of Prospero's beloved daughter Miranda and Alonso's son Ferdinand. It's a meeting that's contrived by Prospero, an essential part of his revenge plot, to marry his daughter to the heir of Naples, and so ensure his bloodline rules both kingdoms. But it grows far beyond that, arousing in Prospero memories of lost love, lost youth. For his plan to succeed, he must lose the person he loves most in life.
Him that you term sir, the good old Lord Gonzalo, his tears run down his beard like winter's drops from eaves of reeds. Your charm so strongly works them, that if you now beheld them, your affections would become tender.
Dost thou think so, spirit?
Mine would, sir, were I human.
And mine shall. As thou without but air a touch, a feeling of their affliction, and shall not myself, one of their kind, that relish all as sharply, passion as they, be kindlier moved than thou art? Though with their high wrongs I am struck to the quick, yet with my nobler reason 'gainst my fury do I take part. The rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance. Go, release them, Ariel, my charms. I'll break their senses, I'll restore, and they shall be themselves.
I'll fetch them, sir.
His motive at the start of the play is revenge. It's to get back what is his. What Prospero learns during the course of the play is that that's not quite enough. Do you really want the last thing in your life to be an act of vengeance? It's about him finding absolution for himself at the end of the play. As he puts it, the rarer action is in virtue than in vengeance.
Prospero's journey has been about learning how to die, how to give up the things of the world, how to accept the loss of power, how to find a state of grace. He has always known that the hospital bed is there waiting for him, and that he must in the end return. From the moment he takes on the apparel of the patient, the drip in his arm, the weakness in his body, he is returning to that state of helplessness. And as the set and characters return to the hospital in which we first found them, the story comes full circle. But now the patient is ready and needs only our indulgence to set him free.
Now my charms are all o'erthrown, and what strength I have's my own, which is most faint. Now it is true, I must be here confined by you. Now I want spirits to enforce, art to enchant, and my ending is despair, unless I be relieved by prayer, which pierces so that it assaults mercy itself and frees all faults. as you from crimes would pardoned be. Let your indulgence set me free.